Okay, so like I said in my last video, I wasn't really sure if I was going to do a video today because I got to work a 12-hour shift and I wasn't sure if I was going to, wind up sleeping in like right until it was time for me to go to work. But I wound up waking up early enough anyway. I ate a little something and I went outside and I saw that Amazon had delivered my G.I. Joe Classified Series, Robert Grunt Graves. So I figured, why not? I love you guys. You know I love you. And give you another video for today. How about that? So also, I got a little something special for you. Besides that, this is the Grunt action figure that I actually custom made myself. Now, a lot of the times when Hasbro winds up making one after I've made a custom of it, it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, put in all this hard work and they just went ahead and made a figure anyway. But in this case, I'm really glad that I did because, as you can see, looking at the artwork on the packaging, is that this version of Grunt is a much more updated, modern, tactical type soldier than the one that I made because I was basing mine strictly off of the original 1982 figure and wanted him to get as close to that as possible. In fact, I actually did 3D print him an M16, but I never got around to putting it in its hand. But somewhere around here, there's an M16 that's made just for this guy. So you can see I got a lot of the same details. I tried to get them as close as the original figure. Like he's got those bright green patches, and I gave him a backpack because the original one had a backpack. Now, obviously, he just had kind of plain pockets on either side here, as opposed to the pistol holster and the knife sheath. But you guys know that I like my G.I. Joes to have a rifle and a knife and a sidearm. So he's got all that kind of stuff. And mostly, he was made from Stalker, but I used the hands and the neck. I think the neck from the hands. These are actually Valaverse hands that I had extras of, and then the neck actually came from either Tomax or Zaymot. I forget which one. And then the head is actually Lieutenant Falcon, which I felt like worked a lot better for this character than it did for Falcon. So, but that's just me. So anyway, let's have a look through my little bin here. So I thought that I had an extra Falcon head from another project that I did, but I'm not sure what I did with it. So I was thinking maybe I might have put it in this bin when I was trying to clean off my table one time. Dig through here real quick and see if I can find it. And if not, I'll just pop the one off of this guy, because I do want to see if the Falcon head will fit on the newer figure. There it is. I found it. So, I've said before in my Falcon review that I don't really like this head as Falcon because I feel like it's a little too old, a little too craggy. I think of Falcon as being like a younger dude. So, I'm going by the G.I. Joe animated movie where he was Duke's little brother, which I like that concept. I know a lot of people are critical about a lot of aspects of the animated movie, but that was something I liked in it. So it definitely exists that way in my G.I. Joe universe. So I wound up 3D printing a head off of Donman Art Collectibles, and that one worked out pretty well. So I might at some point, and I'll do a short or a community post about it if I do. I might try this Grunt head as a Lieutenant Falcon head, and if I wind up liking it better, I might wind up leaving that as the permanent one. The one that Donman Art Collectibles made is great. Don't get me wrong, but my painting skills are not quite up to the challenge of trying to match a lot of these modern action figure paint jobs. Now, granted, like back in the day, back in the 90s, back when action figure heads were painted fairly simply, even as recently as, like, say 10 years ago, I could do even better than the stuff that they were doing at the factory. But it's just gotten to the point where, like, they've had such advancements in technology, a little guy like me can't really keep up. And I can do well enough that I'm usually pretty happy with my customs, but it's not to the point where, like, with the old ones, where people would be like, man, this one looks better than an actual store-bought figure. So go ahead and cut the tape there. Here's a look at the artwork on the side. I love the expression on his face there. It's fairly intense, and he's holding his cell phone. That's another thing that's, like, gonna make this figure a little more modern. So we got a cool picture of the figure here. I'm not noticing any. There's a good Easter egg. Okay, I know exactly what this is. This background is something special. Ugh. Excuse me, I got all phlegmy there for a second. This. Not only did I find the Easter egg, it's the best possible Easter egg. This is such a great Easter egg. All right, so if you look at the background, you have a crashed fiery helicopter, and somebody has written in the sand. If I can get it to focus, maybe the light might be too much. Somebody has written in the sand, CM, Charlie Mike, continue the mission. Folks, the background here, the event that takes place in this background, it's the origin of Snake Eyes. It's the helicopter crash in which Snake Eyes was disfigured and lost his ability to speak. And he got hit in the face with a blast of burning helicopter fuel, but he managed to save Scarlett's life. And then in the process, he was horribly disfigured. And if you guys have seen the 12-inch figure that I made and what I think that he looks like afterwards. Now, when they showed him in the comics, he was nowhere near as horrible as this. But this is what I always imagined when I was a kid. So that to me is my horrible looking Snake Eyes. But yeah, that's really awesome that they did that. Just shout out to the Hasbro packaging design team, because they knocked it out of the park on that one. Like, I'm used to having stuff from, like, the cartoon, and I wasn't really expecting anything because Grunt wasn't really on the cartoon that much. So maybe they might have had a Worlds Without End kind of reference. But man, that is the best Easter egg they could have put on there. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the rest of the package. We got the QR code on the side. One of these days, I'll try the QR codes. We got, again, some artwork of the figure itself and a layout of his accessories. We got a close up of whatever kind of display is on his cell phone there. Some kind of map or something, maybe. Topographical layout, or monitoring some kind of shock waves, or it could be anything. And what looks like a meta kit on his leg, so that's cool. So let's go ahead and open him up. He's got two different rifles, one of which is like looks like more of a modern equivalent of an M16, which is appropriate for Grunt, since the original Grunt came with an M16. And he's got the classic G.I. Joe laser rifle, which this is the first figure I've had that's come with that. Although it did come with the Steel Brigade 2-pack I haven't managed to get yet, or Steel Guard, or whatever the hell they call them, because Bobby Vallis sniped that name from him. All right, so we got the plastic tabs. Because Hasbro cares so much about their environment, they'll get rid of all the plastic in the packaging, except for the part that I really want them to get rid of. I much prefer the little paper ropes. Those are easier to deal with. And there's the same artwork we have from the side of the package, but it's in black and white. So that's what he looks like with that. And here's a quick look at Grunt now that we got him out of the package. And he does have the cell phone already on his chest, like straight out of the package. So he can look down at that and figure stuff out, like a nice little hands-free setup. Now I'm wondering if that's removable. I don't want to break it if it's not. So I suppose I'll do some more research on that and figure out if it's removable or not. I would rather it be removable because if it's on like a little peg or something, then I can take it off of this vest and put it onto other vests, like drill a small hole through those vests and get it in there. So, but we'll come back to Grunt in a second. I want to look at some of the accessories before we look at the figure. So there we go, Robert Grunt Graves, and the little cardboard footlocker we used to, and then these paper bags that I don't like. So I always feel like I'm going to miss something in these paper bags. All right, so here we have, this is not a separate helmet, it's an alternate head. So we can replace the head with that. So that's a Steel Brigade head. And to me, it looks a little more, while it's obviously recognizably a Steel Brigade head, it looks like it took a little bit of influence from Halo into it with the gold visor. And if I can get it to focus well, you can see that there actually are some seams in the visor. It's very Halo looking, and it looks like the main color of it is kind of like this. I can't tell if it's is it green or gray. It looks like it's the same shade of green as a suit, but it's kind of hard for me to tell in this lighting. And then like some gunmetal detailing around there. It's obviously a Steel Brigade helmet for anybody who's familiar with such a thing. So we'll get back to that in a second. I don't know if I would have preferred for them to have that as a separate head, or if I would have preferred for them to have that as a removable helmet. I honestly don't know. There's pros and cons to both, I think. So, you know, I guess your mileage may vary. And then we have kind of a modern half-shell type helmet. So this is like what they've been using as the equivalent of the classic G.I. Joe helmet in the modern day, which I approve of. I think it works pretty well for that. And if I can find, I'm pretty sure I've got Rock and Roll around here somewhere. We can look at his helmet. But where did I put it? I was sure I had Rock and Roll. Maybe he's on the table? Big table? No, I moved a bunch of stuff over there. I know Stalker's over here, so we'll go ahead and grab him while we're up. Because that'll be one that I'll want to compare with the other Wave 1 guys. I mean Wave 1 from the original G.I. Joe line, not Wave 1 from Classified, because obviously we're well into Classified. This is figure number 87. Yeah, there's been that many of them. And I bought a lot of these. Not all of them. There's a few that I haven't gotten. But most of them, I would say I've gotten at this point. So I could have sworn, because I know I got one back in my room, but I could have sworn that I had a Rock and Roll on this table. There he is. I found him. Cool. Okay. So yeah, there's Rock and Roll. And you can see that much like this new Grunt figure, he's got that kind of half-shell looking helmet. So, and then of course, the other one that I have handy that's from the Wave 1s. They did a Scarlet, but it's in a newer design, so I'm not going to count that. But they do have a classic Scarlet coming up. They just revealed images of her online. And then there is a more accurate 1982 version of this. It's on the retro card, but I don't have it. But we'll go ahead and look at Snake Eyes real quick for a second. So far, that's all the ones that I have that are at least Hasbro produced that are based on the 1989 figures. Or not 1989. I'm thinking about Batman. I'm always thinking about Batman. The 1982 figures. You know what I meant. So here he's got a backpack, fairly simple backpack. Just like the original Grunt had a fairly simple backpack. Grunt is as generic of a soldier as you can get. And that's not a bug, that's a feature. is there's a reason his name is Grunt, which is just kind of a general term that you use for like a basic infantry foot soldier. So here we got automatic pistol for the sidearm, very cool, very realistically detailed, not like the blasters like the earlier classified figures come with. And he has a knife. I can get a hold of it, and the ammo clip for the rifle. All right, so that appears to be everything out of that bag. There's the knife, and I feel like it's a little undersized, but it's mainly going to be decorative. So we'll set that aside. And there is the M16 type rifle. It's not actually an M16, but I don't remember the actual name of it. I look at a rifle that's shaped like that, and like I'm an 80s kid, automatically I think of an M16. And there it is with the ammo in there. And it does look like it got warped just a little bit at the tip, but hopefully I can straighten that out. And then something that I'm really excited about is we finally get the classic G.I. Joe laser rifle, the one that came with Snow Job, the one that we saw so often on the Sunbow cartoon. This is one that like I'm hoping we're going to see this on a lot of figures going forward. I know that there's a Duke figure coming out that's going to have that. And maybe I've got one in this bin somewhere. I found the file online on Thingiverse actually, where there were it's on Thingiverse, so it's a free file, and you can download if you have a 3D printer and print out these rifles. Now I think that the size he put at is just a tad small, so I scaled it up to 110% when I print it out. But this one's even bigger than the one that I print. So I'll probably do a short later on where I compare the different rifles. So that is all of his accessories. So let's go ahead and gear him up. So first I'm going to start off with this knife, and it is, like I said, a tiny little knife. And I was kind of worrying that it might be like the thing I was talking about with Falcon, where the knife handle is actually a little too small for him to grip. But no, he seems to grip it just fine. That's in there pretty snugly, so that's good. Let's try it on his left hand, and this time I'm going to go with more of an underhanded kind of joint. There we go. Looks pretty cool with the knife. They did a good job with that. So the knife has a sheath on the. It goes that way. No, I guess it goes that way. It's just kind of. I guess maybe the paint got in the way. So he's got a knife sheath on his vest, which is really cool because the original Grunt, again comparing to mine, which I wanted to look as much like the original figure as possible. The original Grunt had the knife on his web gear, so this one's got a knife on his vest, so that's pretty cool. And unlike the knife that came on the original Stalker figure that I wound up using for the basis for my custom Grunt, this knife is removable, so that's cool. I think I've probably mentioned this before, probably mentioned this many times. When I was a kid, one of my favorite kind of details that you'd see on the G.I. Joe figures on that original wave was how some of them, the ones who use the same torso as Grunt and Snake Eyes and Stalker and Hawk and Breaker, they all had that knife on their web gear. And I always wished that the knife was somehow removable, or that the pistol that Clutch or Steeler had on their chest was somehow removable, but the technology just did not exist for action figures at that time. Nowadays, it's pretty standard, even for 3 3/4 inch figures, to have removable knives and removable sidearms and things like that. Speaking of the sidearm, let's go ahead and see how he looks while he's holding that. Is this the same sidearm that comes with Stalker? It is not, because Stalker's has an extended clip, but it does look very similar to that one. Other than that, but it's not identical. If you compare them, and you're probably not going to be able to see all the details that I'm talking about on the screen, but they are different. Now he does have there's a hole in the barrel, so I'm pretty sure that means that we'll just go ahead and borrow Stalker's suppressor real quick, since that's handy. That means the suppressor probably should fit in there, even though he doesn't come with a suppressor. But if you wanted to, you could borrow a suppressor from another figure, and he could use it. So that's good to know. Go ahead and put that back into Stalker's little loop that holds that. So yeah, there he is with the sidearm. Pretty cool. So go ahead and put that into the holster. There's a holster over here. It's a cross draw holster, so it goes in there that way, so he can reach across with his right hand and pull it. That's pretty cool. You don't see that on GI Joe figures very often with the cross draw kind of holsters like that. Usually, it's just a holster on the leg or on the chest. Sometimes it'll be on the left leg, probably more often than it should be, like statistically. I did want to look at also how many shared parts there are between him and Stalker. And like I said, since the original Stalker and the original Grunt both shared the same mold, along with Snake Eyes and Hawk and most of Breaker, not the arms, but everything from the neck down on these guys is identical, even the same fingerless gloves. So, which again, with my custom, I was trying to make him look as close to the 1982 figure as possible, so I gave him bare hands. Plus, I find like anytime that you try to paint, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me personally. Maybe nobody else has this problem. Anytime that you try to paint a different skin color onto hands, it just never looks right to me. So I always like to have hands that are the same, molded in the same color that I want them to be. So, like, if I tried to paint Stalker's hands to be Caucasian, like it wouldn't look right. And likewise, if I was trying to make a Stalker figure, and or like the figure of Doc that I made, like I wouldn't want to try to just paint some Caucasian hands into darker skin color, because to me that wouldn't look right. I don't know. I could repaint a head a different skin color, and it usually works. But for whatever reason, hands just don't. I don't know what it is. So strange thing. So yeah, so that's he's got the knife and he's got the pistol where they're supposed to go. So let's look at some of these other accessories. And I'm going to put the backpack in his back, see how well the backpack goes in there. And it seems to fit in there fairly snugly, a lot more snugly than usual. So first, I'm going to give him this laser rifle, see how he looks with that. Now, like I said, Grunt didn't really have that big of a part in the cartoon series, or in the comic book for that matter. But he was on the cartoon series enough that he got to use that laser rifle some on that, so that's nice. Let's go and put the helmet on him so we can see what he looks like with the helmet. His head sculpt looks kind of familiar to me, like maybe a little bit like John Saxon, but with a lower hairline. Maybe a little like Larry Hagman. And the helmet doesn't fit on there quite as snugly as I would like, but there he is with the helmet. And then let's go ahead and before we put the M16 in, I want to see what he looks like with the Steel Brigade. Can't talk. The Steel Brigade head. And there's that. Just because I feel like the laser rifle works better with a Steel Brigader. Now, there's the Steel Brigade 2-pack where it's a male and a female. But I kind of feel like for me, the Steel Brigade, like, probably wouldn't be like 50-50 split down the middle between male and female members, and there would probably be like more men than women. It's just my like what I figure would probably be the case. So if you did want to fill out your Steel Brigade a little bit more, you could totally pop that head on there and use him as an army builder. Or, if you want a little more racial diversity to your Steel Brigade, since he's got the fleshy neck and fingers showing, get another Stalker and put the Steel Brigade stuff on him. In fact, why don't we go ahead and do that while we're at it? We're going to pop Stalker's head off, and we'll pop on this Steel Brigade head. and I think it looks pretty cool on him. And you might want to swap out the web gear and everything too if you do that, or you might just want to leave it like this. I would definitely want to swap out the web gear if I did this, because I wouldn't want him to just like stalker wearing a Supergate helmet. Also, you could even switch out the whole figure, switch out the neck and the hands, and put them onto Grunt, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with that. So that is what he looks like with that. Since I got his head off now, let's go ahead and pop the Falcon head on there and see how that works. And I do find it kind of annoying that a lot of these GI Joe classifieds do seem to have different size neck balls and things like that. And I kind of feel like it should be more standardized. Like throw a bone to those of us who like to do the customs. All right, so there he is with the Falcon head. That's what he looks like with that. And I might just wind up leaving that one on there so he'd be consistent with my custom that I already made. And we'll put the half shell helmet on him. And honestly, this helmet fits better on Falcon than it does on the actual bespoke Grunt head. I kind of wonder how many people are gonna wind up swapping out their Grunt heads and their Falcon heads, because I honestly do feel like that works a bit better. Now, I don't have Falcon handy, unfortunately, because I do have that figure back in my room, so doing a little bit of work on it. But I think that somewhere in here I do have an extra Falcon beret. So let's see if we can find that. And if we can find that, we can try it on this guy and see what he looks like with it. Oh, that's a helmet. See, I just kind of put all this stuff into this box, and it was because I was just trying to make some space on my table, because the table had gotten kind of cluttered, and I'm like, I'll go through this later and get it all sorted out, but then never got around to it. And then my table got cluttered again anyway. So figures, huh? Figures, action figures. There it is. Okay, so here is Falcon's beret. So we'll go ahead and put Falcon's beret onto our. Oh, that looks good. That looks to me it looks way more like Lieutenant Falcon than the original Falcon figure did. And likewise, I think this head works better for Grunt than it did for Lieutenant Falcon. Grunt, to me, should have that kind of craggy old soldier look. If you remember the original figure, he had like a grumpy facial expression and kind of a receding hairline, and he looked kind of like John Saxon. but this one looks like a younger, more handsome John Saxon, and I wanted a John Saxon that looked like what he looked like in Nightmare on Elm Street. Like all right, so we'll go ahead and go over the articulation, although it's pretty standard, but I'm just going to assume that like there might be people who did not see the review of Stalker that I did, which uses pretty much the same body, like I said. So head articulation moves. I'm going to put the original head back on here, so like we're getting the full. That way we know that we're getting the full range of articulation that this head has. So maybe not as much as I would like as far as the up and down movements, but they do have that extra articulation at the neck, so that helps out a bit. He's got the butterfly joints at the shoulders, so they move back and forth about like that. Arm rotates all the way around this way. Arms move up about that far. There's a rotation at the bicep. I can get it to move back down again. It's like, God, there we go. That's how it is. Now, these arms do have a tendency sometimes to kind of come off of that bicep swivel. I've noticed. I've found them in the package where like the bicep swivel came off. So do be careful about that. You can always pop it back on. Use some heat to soften it back up. Got good excellent range of motion at the elbows. Got arms with like a side to side kind of pivot, which I prefer up and down for characters that have guns, but that's just me. He does have the up and down on this hand, which I think is odd. I would want them both to have the up and down. That's just me again. Uh, Underneath this vest, he does have an ab crunch, and you can still get enough range of motion out of the ab crunch even with the vest on. Got a waist that turns from side to side and gets some slight rocking motion. Not as good of McFarlane figures, but still pretty good. You got legs that move up about that far. They've got the same kind of rubber pelvis piece thing going on that McFarlane figures go, but Hasbro seems to have figured it out a little bit more than McFarlane. I think probably because of that drop down hip joint that it's got. So the legs go up about that far. Got double jointed knees, so great range of motion at the knees. Oh, and I can't forget that thigh cut, so we can move the thigh back and forth. And then I love the boot cut, but not when it comes forward. So let's see if we can pop that back on there. Be careful of that then. So he does have a boot cut, soles all the way around. And I think that this one, more so than with Stalker, because Stalker's boots are all colored like one shade of dark green. Let me put his head back on. There we go. But with Grunt, they actually did paint some green detailing onto the boots. And I don't think I appreciated exactly how they modernized and updated the look of the 1982 boots until I saw it painted in with this kind of detail. And that's pretty cool. And of course, he's got the rocker ankles. Ankles move up about that far, move down about that far, and they can rotate from side to side. So you can get all kinds of good poses out of his ankles. I'm going to take that head off, and I'm going to put the Falcon head back on. And from now on, Falcon is going to be my Grunt. And that's how that's going to be. And then I'm going to probably replace that Don Menart collectibles head, which, like I said, they did a great job. I think I would rather have the factory paint job is why I'm doing that. And they did a good job with the paint job on here. Eyes got some light to them, got some good eyebrows, got a slight dusting of some gray paint to give him a nice 5 o'clock shadow kind of look. So as much as I raved about that G.I. Joe laser rifle, and I'm very happy to have it, I'm going old school with Grunt, and he's getting the regular army rifle. So because I just feel like that fits the character better. Because like I said, Grunt is just kind of a basic utility soldier. He's not a fancy guy with a laser rifle or a jetpack, or he's not even a machine gunner or a mortar soldier or anything like that. He's just a basic utility soldier, basic infantry, and that's why he works. Now, when I was when G.I. Joe first started, when I was a kid, the Real American Hero version of G.I. Joe, Grunt got a lot of love as far as the merchandising goes. And I think the reason why that is because out of all of them, again, like I said, he was the most generic soldier. And probably a lot of people making these decisions were baby boomers who grew up with the 12-inch G.I. Joe, and that's how they thought of G.I. Joe, where like he was just your basic army soldier. And they probably looked at that one and said, "Oh, that's the one that reminds me of those. So the one I had when I was a kid, the action soldier." Yeah. So put him on the Halloween costumes and the birthday plates and things like that. So I almost forgot. He's got those pegs on his backpack, much like with Outback that I like so much on those. So we can store the weapons if we're not using them. We can, at least when the backpack doesn't fall off. Like here I was bragging about the backpack staying on pretty well, and then it comes off almost immediately when I do. It came off a few times when I was messing around with it, but I looked at that as being more my fault because I bumped into it or whatever. But that one it just randomly fell off. But yeah, I do wish they'd come up with something to get those backpacks to stay on a little bit better. Maybe a thicker peg or something. And I can imagine they're reluctant to do that because they already feel committed to the size of peg they got now. They don't want to have to go back and redo everything or have to complain. The collectors complain that it's not compatible anymore or whatever. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with this figure. He definitely gets a recommend. Uh, he probably would work really well as an army builder, even though he's not an army builder. He is a specific character. But like I said, his look is just generic enough that I think he could pass for an army builder. You could put different heads on, especially with the skill brigade head that already comes with him. He does have where he's got his name on a name tag here, so you'd probably want to find a way to remove that. Maybe paint over it with some white paint, or even then afterwards get like a water slide decal with other characters' names on it. It says E4 Graves, so it does have his real name on there. So if you wanted to do the thing I was talking about, what you could do that I think would be really cool is if you want to have your own old school grunt, you can get another stalker and swap out their web gear. And then you can also, at the same time, have a more modern style stalker if you wanted to. But then you, like I said, probably want to put like stalker's name on there instead. Have it say Wilkinson instead of Graves, and I forget what rank Stalker is. Is he a I know he's a sergeant of some kind, like a master sergeant maybe. Like I'd probably have him as being like an E8. That's what I would do, but I don't remember what it is on the actual file card. He might be like an E7 or something. So anyway, but that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Let me know what you think of Grunt, and are you planning on picking this figure up and making him part of your collection? Oh, one other thing I wanted to, he does have like some ammo stuff on the legs. And like I said, to me, this looks more like a meta kit than anything else. So that's a nice little realistic touch. It's nice to have meta kits on these figures because, I figure they actually do have to, deal with people getting shot and everything since they're soldiers. So, all right, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.